So I'm talking about a pretty touchy subject in this video, so I want to make it really clear that my goal here is not to anger anybody and it's not to start any arguments. My goal here is just to present an idea and spark a civil, productive discussion. So if you're going to comment on this video, keep that in mind. Civil and productive, please. I know it's hard with politics, but I promise it's possible. So right now, it's really no secret that politicians are taking advantage of the democratic system that we have in place, at least in America. It doesn't matter what political party you follow or what beliefs you have. It's just an objective fact that our current president has made multiple claims about things that he would do if he was elected into office that he just has not done, which is called lying. For example, he claimed he was going to release the Epstein files. He did not do that, and now the government is claiming that they don't exist. And the footage that they did release was doctored, so we know that they've lied to us about this before. We have pretty good reason to believe that they're lying about that as well. He also claimed that he wouldn't cut Medicaid with the Big Beautiful Bill, and instead of doing that, instead of sticking to his word, he's cutting Medicaid to like 17 million Americans, and he's giving $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires who already have so much money that they could never spend it in a lifetime, like even if they tried. So again, it doesn't matter who you support. It's just an objective fact that people are using their positions of power to tell lies so that they can continue to keep those positions of power. So it's just, unfortunately, just a fact that our government is slowly turning into an oligarchy, which is basically a country or a government that's run by a small group of people, in this case, billionaires, and they're taking advantage of their power. So what is the solution? This is something that I've wondered about myself personally, because it seems like it's a pretty tough problem to solve, and it is, but the solution could actually kind of already be in front of us. Still won't be easy, but we at least might have a direction to head in. And that direction is sortition. So sortition is basically government, except the people making the decisions are selected completely at random, ideally giving like as fair of a representation of the population as possible. So that might sound a little weird at first, because you might not want like your uncle or like your crazy neighbor or whatever to be making decisions about the government. That's understandable, wanting to avoid bad, morally corrupt politicians in power is that's a good idea, right? That's already what's going on though, and it's just getting worse. So hear me out here. So this idea is basically based on two main principles. So the first thing is, of course, fair and equal representation. If you're selecting people at random, if you pick a large enough group of people, you're gonna have a diverse enough group of opinions that you would get a much better idea on how to actually go about this. So immediately doing this would already solve a huge problem that we have in our government, which is over-representation of certain groups. And both gerrymandering and electoral college and tons of other little tactics and strategies that people in our government use to over-represent a group of people, they would just be gone. They wouldn't exist anymore, which is a good thing because it makes it more fair. So the second idea that this is based off of is an idea called the wisdom of the crowd. So in like school or like in libraries or whatever, you might have seen those like things, those like challenges that people have sometimes where you have like a jar of a bunch of jelly beans and you have to guess how many are in the jar, and whoever gets the closest wins like a prize or whatever. Well, interestingly, what you'll find is if you take as many answers as you can, which the more answers the better, and you average out these answers, you'll get like really surprisingly close to the real number. And the reason why is basically because some people are going to guess like way too high of a number, but some people are going to guess like way too low of a number. And the way that it averages out ends up getting pretty close to the actual number. But for example, like with a coin, which has a 50% chance to land on heads and a 50% chance to land on tails, if you flip it like 20 times, you're probably not going to get an even 10-10 distribution, but the more coins that you flip, the closer that distribution is going to be to 50-50. Same principle. Obviously, it's caused by like a slightly different thing here, but same idea. So in this model, theoretically, we would get the closest to the objective or the unbiased outcome, which would be, the quote-unquote best outcome. And you might be surprised to learn or to realize that we already do this with jury duty. Selecting people at random for jury duty is really effective against avoiding biases and coming close to the overall, like I said, best answer, which in this case, best would just mean the answer that makes the most people happy as possible. So of course, there's like a ton of things you have to figure out to make this like actually work effectively. But personally, I believe that kind of generally the best approach to take would be to first just overturn the government, which, by the way, that's a constitutional right that we have. It says in the Constitution that if the government is no longer serving the people, then we can overturn the government. So let's all keep that in mind over the next few years here. But first, overturn the government, and then basically replace the government with a body that aims to find the best way to get as equal a group of people, and then gather groups of experts and people who can collect data. Data is the best thing here, because rather than just having like experts with opinions, if we can like get as much solid data as we possibly can for each individual issue, that's like actual objective, something you can look at, something that's tangible. Of course, that gets complicated because there are certain issues that are just entirely subjective, but that's not for me to figure out right now. That's for those theoretical people to figure out one day, I guess. But basically the idea is just get a random group of people, ideally a large group of people, probably in the hundreds or thousands of people, educate them all on a subject, and then have them decide what they think is the best solution. Then take all of those solutions and try to figure something out with that. Now, again, much easier said than done, but that's pretty much the basic idea for it. So then we have a group of people that actually accurately represents the population of a country. We eliminate tons of possibility for bias and overrepresentation, and we use a proven phenomena, being the wisdom of the crowd, to come to some sort of conclusion. I don't know, personally, it sounds pretty appealing to me. Again, tons of issues that would need to be worked out with it, but definitely something that's promising. So of course there's tons of other ideas out there for ways to govern a country. So if you have any ideas, feel free to share them in the comments. Like I said, my goal with this is to spark like a proper civil discussion so we can really genuinely arrive to the best conclusion here. Because that's what it should be about. It should be about working together to come to a common consensus, not fighting each other all of the time and being so divided over everything. How are we going to ever get anything done if we don't listen to each other? And I'm going to tell you a secret right now. That's what they want. They don't want us to come to any conclusions. They want us to keep fighting each other so that we forget about the fact that these people are taking advantage of us. But don't tell them I said that. Yeah, anyway, so right here is day 2 of the daily uploads. So unfortunately, I don't have anything to put at the end of this video. I was working on some stuff today, but I was mostly learning and not really creating. But tomorrow I should have something to put at the end of the video. So, and I'm also not going to talk about politics tomorrow as well. This will be an occasional thing, but it is important to talk about, and I'm not going to shy away from it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you tomorrow.